If you look closely down there, you will see the ocean. We are in Pacific Palisades, about 16 miles, give or take, from Hollywood, where in 1986, Carol, who was finished living in New York, had moved. She was single and for the first time in her entire life would be living in a house by herself. She chose this beautiful Cape Cod-style house here. We'll get a better view in a sec. Right off of Sunset Boulevard, marking her third house that would be right off of the 22-mile boulevard. It also has a gorgeous view of the ocean, over 5,000 square feet, with 5 bedrooms and 5 bathrooms. She wanted each of her daughters to have a room if they decided to all visit together. And Carol was living here when she made a hilarious TV miniseries that should have been a much bigger hit. Fresno was a spoof of the very popular nighttime soaps of the 80s, like Dynasty, Dallas, Falcon Crest, and Knots Landing. It was way ahead of its time. There had never been a comedic miniseries before. Miniseries then were, usually based off of books by Jackie Collins or Danielle Steele. They were serious. They were dramatic, but not this one. Carol, she played Charlotte Kensington opposite Dabney Coleman. The entire cast was great. Carol would be reunited with Charles Grodin. Comedic genius Terry Garr played Talon Kensington. Gregory Harrison, Jeffrey Jones, and Michael Richards, they're all in it. It aired in November of 1986. There were only 5 episodes. The audience didn't even get it. And on the second airing of the series, the network added a laugh track so that viewers knew to laugh. They didn't even know it was a parody. It really should have been a much bigger hit. In 1987, Carol did another special, and this one was called, listen to this list, Carol, Carl, Whoopi, and Robin. It aired on ABC on February 10th of 87. It was well reviewed, and there are some great sketches in it. There's one where Carol and Whoopi play mother and daughter. It's kind of really great. But Robin Williams, he ended up walking away with an Emmy for Outstanding Individual Performance.
A special hour of comedy with 4 of the funniest people on earth. It's Carol, Carl, Whoopi, and Robin in an all-new Carol Burnett special tonight.
What's really exciting, though, is that also in 1987, Carol guest starred on the 6th and final season of the TV show Fame. In her episode, she would be working alongside a new up-and-coming actress named Carrie Hamilton. Not only did Carrie completely turn her life around, but she studied music and acting at Pepperdine and landed herself a role playing Reggie on Fame for seasons 5 and 6, doing almost 40 episodes. This was such a joy for Carol and Carrie both to be able to work together. When Carol's book One More Time came out, she inscribed a copy for Carrie and wrote, "To my dream, Carrie." It was a reference to People magazine having referred to Carrie's addiction as Carol's nightmare, something neither of them liked.
Suddenly, everything changed.
You do something stupid, so help me, I'll shoot you dead. Get in the car.
Captor and captive must forge a friendship to escape a murderous predator.
He's going to kill her. Shoot it, please. If you shoot him, I'll set you free.
Carol Burnett and Carrie Hamilton star in the suspense thriller Hostage, Sunday.
But they enjoyed working together so much that they teamed up for a TV movie called Hostage, which aired on Valentine's Day of 1988. Nothing romantic about it. It's a total drama. Carol plays a woman who gets kidnapped by Carrie's character, who has just escaped from prison. And Annette Bening is also in it. It's totally not anything anyone would have expected them to do, but Carol and Carrie were making up for all of the drama that had occurred, and they were growing very close to one another. And another fun thing, in 1988, Carol guest starred for the second time on the TV show Magnum Pi, playing a character named Susan Johnson. She first played her in 1984, and I don't know, it seemed like she and Tom Selleck really had a blast. The ocean views must have gotten old because the LA Times reported in 1989 that Carol had sold the Palisades house for a new condo in Century City, specifically here in the Century Woods complex. New move, new decade. Carol kicked off the 90s with a new anthology series that ran for 2 seasons in 90 and 91 called Carol and Company, and they did something really unique. The same cast played different characters each week, but none of them were repetitive or ongoing. It was always something new. And talk about an eclectic cast. Carol Burnett, Jeremy Piven, Richard Kind, and Peter Krause. It did have a few guest stars, including Betty White, Christopher Reeve, Carrie Hamilton, Tim Conway, and Swoosie Kurtz, who actually won an Emmy, her only Emmy win out of 9 nominations for her work on this show. Also taking home an Emmy would be Bob Mackie, one of his 9 Emmys. Although, believe it or not, this was his first win involving Carol. He had been nominated, but won for other work until this Emmy. I mean, the career opportunities this legend has given people, my gosh. She's just a showbiz giant. And I don't care what anybody says, 1992's Noises Off is a hilarious movie. I know it's such a great stage show and you really need to see it live, but I think the movie works great too. You know who probably didn't think it worked? Dorothy Loudon. Remember I told you that Dorothy replaced Carol on the Gary Moore show? Then Carol returned the gesture by getting the movie version of Miss Hannigan in Annie. Well, Dorothy was the first person to play Dottie Otley in Noises Off on Broadway, and once again, Carol took the movie role. But why I love it so much is that it also stars probably my favorite male comedic actor ever, John Ritter. I mean, I'd watch John and Carol just sit there and read their scripts. Oh, I miss that man so much. Michael Caine, Christopher Reeve, Nicolette Sheridan, Marilu Henner, the whole cast it's really terrific. 1992 also brought us one of Carol's greatest guest starring roles on the Larry Sanders Show. She actually appeared again in 1998, but on the episode in 92, Carol, she just delivered the line of the year.
I saw your balls.
What?
I saw your balls.
And in 1994, Carol and George Segal teamed up for a TV movie called Seasons of the Heart. She also guest starred on Evening Shade with Burt Reynolds in 1993. Carol spent the 90s doing a handful of guest spots on TV shows like Women of the House, starring Delta Burke and Terry Garrigan. That only lasted 1 season. Carol did Touched by an Angel, but her biggest role was her recurring role on NBC's Mad About You, where she played Helen Hunt's mother for 11 episodes, which brought Carol a couple Emmy nominations and a win in 1997. But perhaps the most exciting thing happened for Carol in 1995. After 30 years, she once again returned to her first love, Broadway. This time, starring in Moon Over Buffalo, a fast-paced, highly physical comedy set in 1953's Brooklyn. It opened on October 1st, 1995 at the Martin Beck Theater and ran for over 300 performances, earning Carol a much-deserved Tony nomination for Best Actress in a Play.
Just be careful.
George, if it breaks, it breaks.
Ooh.
I'm singing in the rain.
Stop it.
Just singing in the rain.
Stop it,
What a
Charlotte.
glorious feeling. I'm happy.
Will you stop?
In 1993, I signed on to perform for 6 weeks in a musical in Long Beach and met Brian Miller. He was the contractor who hired the musicians and also played drums for this particular production. Musicians have always been special to me, not only for their unique talents, but also for their sense of humor. During rehearsals, the cast and crew would take a break and relax downstairs around the coffee machine. I was drawn to Brian because he was fun, smart, and easy to be around. I began to look forward to those coffee breaks. After the show closed, we went our separate ways. A few years later, we ran into each other at an outdoor mall in Los Angeles. Lunch followed, then a movie, then dinner. Despite our age difference, he's quite a bit younger than I am, I thought of Brian as a contemporary. He knew and loved all the old movies I'd grown up with, and was even able to quote from them at length. And as far as music goes, well, he knew just about every standard written. All of that, along with being a classically trained musician and the drummer for the Hollywood Bowl Orchestra for several years, made him very appealing. After a few months, I introduced Brian to my girls, and they took to him instantly, which made me very happy. Next, it was time for him to meet the gang. Harvey, Tim, we all gathered for dinner at an Italian restaurant in Beverly Hills. Harvey, slipping into the role of my father, said later that he had been reluctant to meet my new beau for fear that he might be all wrong for me. Happily, it turned out to be a terrific evening, and we all wound up laughing and hugging on the sidewalk while we were waiting for our cars. And the best part of all was Harvey planting a big kiss on Brian's cheek, saying, "Welcome to the family." Brian and I tied the knot in November 2001. In addition to his work as a drummer, Brian is one of Los Angeles' busiest contractors of musicians for theater and live events, and he also acts as personnel manager for one of the city's resident orchestras, all of which keeps him pretty busy. He's brilliantly funny and makes me laugh constantly. What's most important is that I feel safe with him. He's a loving human being and my very best friend. In 1998, my daughter Carrie called me from her home in Colorado. At 35, she had a good career going, guest starring in movies for television, writing, and singing. She had an idea she wanted to pitch to me. "Mom, I think we could take the first part of One More Time and make a play out of it, just for the fun of it, you and me, together. How about it?" Just for the fun of it. We began collaborating long distance. Carrie would write in her Colorado mountain cabin, and I would write in my Los Angeles apartment. The faxes flew back and forth. Nanny, Mama, and Daddy were all coming to life. Carrie was getting to know her family in the most profound way, putting dialogue to moments that echoed in my deepest memories. She had never known these people in life, but she knew them now. Not by writing about them, but by writing them. After some theater lab workshops with the Sundance Theater and the help of workshop director Philip Himberg, we were ready to show the play to some producers and directors. We got some interest from a producer who suggested two highly respected Broadway directors. Carrie and I didn't have a clue about which one to pursue, so I called my friend Hal Prince for advice. He knew and admired both directors, so he asked if he could read the play before giving us a recommendation. He read it and offered to direct it himself. Hal Prince, the director of Phantom of the Opera, Evita, Cabaret, Sweeney Todd, Follies, Company, and countless other Broadway successes, the winner of over 20 Tony Awards, and he wanted to work with us on our little play. Carrie and I were over the moon. Over the next couple of years, Hal helped us turn our work into a real stage play. Originally, we had written lots of scenes in many different settings: the one-room apartment Nanny and I had lived in, Mama's room down the hall, the rooftop of the apartment building, Daddy's hospital room, and so on. It was more like a movie than a stage play. Our first assignment from Hal was to put all the action in our one-room apartment and on the rooftop. Hal said, "Confinement is your friend." Was he ever right? We found out that the apartment building Nanny and I had lived in when we moved out from San Antonio had been called Hollywood Arms when it was first built in the 20s. We had our title. Hal sent the play to Robert Falls, the artistic director of the Goodman Theater in Chicago, and we were offered a limited run beginning in April 2002. And then Carrie got sick. Carrie was diagnosed with lung cancer in the summer of 2001. Determined to beat it, she moved back to Los Angeles, where she insisted on driving herself to her chemotherapy and radiation treatments. During these first few months, we continued working with Hal on Hollywood Arms. Carrie was in and out of the hospital, rallying and getting sprung to go home. I remember one of the times Carrie was readmitted to Cedars-Sinai in the late fall of 2001. I entered her hospital room. It was around 5 in the morning. She was stirring. I looked down at her as she opened her eyes and smiled at me. Looking around the room, I feebly joked, "So, you wanted to come back here again, huh?" She said, "I miss the food." For a while there, we all believed she'd lick it, Carrie most of all. One of the nurses asked her how come she smiles so much. Carrie replied, "Every day I wake up and decide, today I'm going to love my life."
It just pains me to have to say that Carrie lost her battle on January 20th, 2002. They say there's just no greater pain than losing a child, and I debated coming here. I hope this isn't disrespectful to anyone. I think you'll soon see why I've included this on our tour. Right here in the Wilshire Corridor is Pierce Brothers Westwood Village Memorial Park and Mortuary, an insanely popular tourist attraction, mostly because Marilyn Monroe is here. Honestly, everywhere you look, there's someone famous. I mean, Beach Boy Carl Wilson, right next to Paul Gleason, Mr. Vernon from The Breakfast Club. It's insane who's here. Natalie Wood, Truman Capote, Don Knotts, Donna Reed, Jackie Collins, Hugh Hefner, Peggy Lee, Janet Leigh, George C. Scott, Frank Zappa, so many. Here's the thing. I believe if you're buried here, you pretty much want to be visited and remembered, and you're really about to see why. For starters, Marilyn died in 1962. Anyone buried here after that, which is everyone you're about to see, knows that this place attracts quite a lot of people. It's embarrassing how long I waited for people to leave, but usually this place is swarming. There, of course, is Kirk Douglas, but what's really heartwarming to me is that Carrie is very close to the Hamilton family's very dear friend, Walter Matthau, and his wife, Carol. Walter died just 2 years before Carrie did. Okay, now you're about to laugh a little. Yes, laugh at a cemetery. This next headstone is one of several that, believe it or not, are quite hilarious because Merv Griffin put, "I will not be right back after this message." Genius. Oh, Farrah. I still haven't accepted her death. It's just not real to me. She's still alive and on Charlie's Angels, and that's that. All right, another fun one, though. Of course, from Rodney Dangerfield. There Goes the Neighborhood. I just love seeing people have a sense of humor and depth. And you're gonna see the greatest and funniest tombstone of all time. Just wait, you'll agree. So this building, if you've ever seen footage of Marilyn's funeral, which is always shown in her story, you'll recognize the chapel and how it looks the exact same. But, okay, over here. I feel bad how excited I am to show you a headstone, but it's brilliant. Jack Lemmon Inn. So good, right? Just perfect. Oh, and hey, while we're at it, over here, no big deal, Archie Bunker. All in the Family also filmed at CBS Television City. Carol O'Connor was the opposite of Archie, a raging liberal. Here's Jack Lemmon's frequent director, the brilliant Billy Wilder, also with one of the funniest headstones. He, of course, directed Jack, Walter, and Carol in the front page. Peter Falk, Columbo. I'm not here. I'm home with Shira, probably his widow. And speaking of Columbo, there's a bench that says it, and a dog, a big dog. I don't know what any of this means, but next to it is the creator of Young and the Restless. His says, "Forever Young and Restless." Carol was actually obsessed with All My Children. She revolved her schedule around it and even guest starred on it a few times. Elizabeth Taylor surprised her on an episode. Huge, huge fan. The cemetery, I believe, opened in 1905, and the chapel was built in 1961, the year before Marilyn died.
Marilyn Monroe was a legend. In her own lifetime, She created a myth of what a poor girl from a deprived background could attain. For the entire world, she became a symbol of the eternal feminine. But I have no words to describe the myth and the legend, nor would she want us to do so.
So Joe Hamilton died in 1991, also from cancer. I guess there's a little silver lining in that he didn't live long enough to see his daughter Carrie pass. Poor Carol did. Obviously just so traumatic and so painful. But she prevailed. She even wrote quite a lovely, touching book about their relationship called Carrie and Me. It was published in 2013. So, okay, look, we've seen all these big stars and their fun, attention-grabbing headstones, and why I decided to show Carrie's is because she was a star. She chose a life in show business as an adult, and I say give her the same love and respect as all of these other wonderful people here. I don't know, I think maybe she'd think this was fun. And also, she's not alone, and damn it, I want to celebrate the entire family because I think they should be. Their lives, they all just intertwined so uniquely, and because Carol has been so generous in sharing their story, I don't know, I feel like maybe it's okay to be here. Oh, birds of paradise, they were Carrie's favorite flowers. I mean, just so beautiful here. Except I can't imagine what that big empty one is. Gosh, nope. Also, speaking of how lives intertwine, directly across from the family plot is the Bryce family plot, including Ray Stark. I'm telling you, this place is not morbid or sad. It is a celebration of truly accomplished people, everyone. Sorry, but I choose to be inspired here, not sad. We all only have so much time left, you know? And also, if your legacy includes valuable, cherished contributions to the arts and to the world of pop culture, then I am going to celebrate you.
New York Times obituary. Carrie Hamilton, an actress, writer, and musician, and daughter of Carol Burnett, died yesterday. She was 38. Miss Hamilton, whose father was the late producer Joe Hamilton, appeared in the television series Fame and had guest roles on other shows, including Murder, She Wrote, Beverly Hills 90210, and 30-something. She also starred in television movies. She and her mother collaborated on a stage version of Miss Burnett's best-selling memoir, One More Time. The resulting play, Hollywood Arms, is scheduled to have its world premiere in Chicago in April. Ms. Hamilton spoke publicly in the 1980s about her struggles with addiction and her decision to go drug-free. She starred as Maureen in the first national touring version of the musical Rent, had feature film credits, and wrote and directed short films through the profit-sharing production company Namathkuf. She won the Women in Film Award at the 2001 Latino Film Festival for her short film, Lunchtime Thomas. Miss Hamilton is survived by two sisters, Erin and Jody Hamilton, and by Ms. Burnett. I didn't want to get out of bed. I had the support of my family and friends and my dear husband, Brian. Yet having the covers over my face gave me whatever small comfort I could find. Hal called. The play was set to open in Chicago at the Goodman Theater in late April, and it wasn't yet finished. It was time to get back to work. Still, I stayed in bed until Brian told me, in no uncertain terms, that I owed it to Carrie. I owed it to myself, and I owed it to Hal, who had nurtured and carried Hollywood Arms, Carrie, and me all this way. It's time to throw off the covers, Carol, Brian said. Flying to Chicago to begin rehearsals, I held on to Brian's hand, closed my eyes, and prayed. Carrie, let me know you're with me. Give me a sign. I need you to help me through these next few weeks. I need your strength. Brian and I checked into the hotel room where a huge bouquet was waiting for me. Welcome to Chicago. See you tomorrow. Love, Hal. It was a beautiful array of birds of paradise. I nearly fell over. Hal had no idea it was Carrie's favorite flower. She even had one tattooed on her shoulder. This was definitely a sign. The next night after the first rehearsal, Hal, Brian, and I went out to dinner at a lovely restaurant downtown. The maitre d' offered us a special brand of champagne as a welcome to Chicago gift. He showed us the label. There was a name on it. Louise. My mother's name and Carrie's middle name. Oh, I had what I needed to keep me going. Hollywood Arms went on to open on Broadway October 31st, 2002, starring Linda Lavin, brilliant as Nanny, Michelle Paulk, heartbreaking as Mama, and Frank Wood, so very touching as Daddy. It closed early in 2003, winning a Tony Award for the beautiful Michelle. My baby and I had gone the distance, thanks to Hal. I quote John Simon's final paragraph in his review of Hollywood Arms. But Hollywood Arms has yet another form of invaluable affection, that of Harold Prince, for the characters and their story. You will never see more feelingful insight, more self-effacing love for their quirks, foibles, and kindnesses from a director for his stage children, big and small. If only this thoroughly and endearing play and production could have been seen by Miss Burnett's daughter and co-author, Carrie Hamilton, dead before even the Goodman Theater premiere. One fervently hopes that the joy of such a true creation accompanied her on her final journey. Not surprisingly, perhaps, it was Carrie who best described what she left behind. Quote, "Our legacy is really the lives we touch, the inspiration we give, altering someone's plan, if even for a moment, and getting them to think, cry, laugh, argue. More than anything, we are remembered for our smiles, the ones we share with our closest and dearest, and the ones we bestow on a total stranger who needed it right then, and God put you there to deliver." This is 102. This is the room.
Last year, while working on the play, Carol rented her old apartment in a rundown Hollywood neighborhood and fixed it up.
We didn't have a shower curtain because I hung all my clothes on the shower rod because Nanny had all the closets filled up with junk and stuff, you know. And so I took baths all the time. I loved to take baths. It was a place to come and be alone and fantasize and so forth. And so my clothes were always just a little bit damp. Sometimes Mama would sit down on the toilet and she'd open this. This had and she'd sing into the air shaft because her voice sounded so pretty. And she could hear the echo. And she'd sing, "I'll get by as long as I have you." It would just be great.
Heartbreak and loss entered Carol Burnett's life from an early age, yet it's never slowed her career down. The 2000s gave us some great guest roles on Desperate Housewives, Law & Order SVU, Glee, Hot in Cleveland, Hawaii Five-0, as well as some great voiceover work. But the coolest thing happened on April 18th, 2013, when Hollywood declared Selma and Highland Avenue Carol Burnett Square. There was a ceremony and a dedication for which Carol was present. This was the chosen square because it's where she grew up, and it's also nestled between Selma Elementary and Hollywood High, which of course she both attended. We saw almost all of the high school earlier on the tour, but I saved the best for last, the Highland Avenue side, because it's the best. In 2002, an artist whose name I believe is pronounced Eloy Torres painted this mural of Hollywood High alumni. There's Carol, of course, right next to her buddy Cher. I mean, just wild that they both went here and both shared a hallway at CBS. Bruce Lee, Valentino, and Judy Garland make up the far right. Then next to Carol is Cantinflas? Then Lawrence Fishburne, Lana Turner, Selena, Brandy, Dolores Del Rio, and Dorothy Dandridge. What a group! And I just love that in 2022 we can see Carol's face and name all over Hollywood. And to have an actual city square named for her, just blocks from the tiny one-room apartment where she grew up, is as special gets. And just so deserved. In a city that doesn't always preserve in a way that I think they should, this is just a delight to see, and I really hope the kids who go here are able to soak up some sort of inspiration from not just Carol, but all of these amazing, talented folks who are forever immortalized here. Well, okay, until the paint fades.
I wonder, is there anyone you won't work with? Is there a performer or sort of performer that you just feel so...
You ain't going to get me into specifics about mentioning
I don't
any
want to.
particular person, but there are types I will not work with. If I find out that someone is that way, I won't work with them. Someone who is totally unprofessional, by that I mean temperamental, who runs in slamming the door screaming, who is late, who has no feeling for the other performers. I guess you would call it totally unprofessional, who feels that what they're doing is the most important thing in the world, and all it is show business, and it's a hoot to be in show business. And too many people take it seriously. I used to, and it's not worth it. It is fun, and it is let's pretend, and sometimes we lose the feeling of that, and we don't make it as much fun as it is. It is all just fake and phony. We start pretending when we're kids, playing dolls, going out and pretend, hey, let's pretend I'm so-and-so and you're this, and acting out movies. It's child's play.
Yeah.
And I guess because all the big mucky mucks in the suits have all the money, then it becomes very serious. But as a performer, I think we should just plunge in and have fun and experiment.
I love that there's an official sign announcing Carol Burnett Square now, but this kid has always called it that, kind of. Actually, the entire perimeter of Hollywood has always been Carol Burnett Square to me. I don't want to be a broken record in your ear, but again, her story has been in my life since I was practically a kid. And my best friend Mike, hi Mike, he was a year behind me and drove out with me when I moved out here. He stayed the whole summer before going back to finish high school and eventually moving out here as well. And we've just always acknowledged these areas as Carol hangouts. And oh my gosh, we're such dorks. We used to drive by the Yucca apartment before auditions for good luck. Oh, youth. Hopeful, wide-eyed youth. Anyway, before we conclude this tour, I want to share one more story from Carol. One that I feel, I don't know, it's kind of, it sort of sums up, I really can't put it into words. It's just so Carol.
Harvey and I were rehearsing a very funny sketch called The Pail. He was a psychiatrist and I was a first-time patient. My problem was that I couldn't get over the childhood trauma of the school bully who stole my pail out of the sandbox when we were 7 years old. It still haunted me, and I was hoping this famous doctor could curb my ongoing anxiety. The upshot of the sketch is that the psychiatrist himself turns out to be the school bully who for years has hoarded sand pails in a closet in his office. As his patient, I demand that he give me back my pail. He reluctantly hands me a pail, and just as I'm about to leave, I look at it closely and I say, "Wait a minute, this isn't my pail. My pail had Minnie Mouse painted on it. This one has Donald Duck. This pail belonged to Barbara Brown. Give me my pail." The sketch ends with Harvey relinquishing my original pail and even having to reach into his inner jacket pocket to hand me the matching spade. I didn't think the name Barbara Brown was terribly interesting, so when we rehearsed it again, I came out with, "This pail belonged to Adrienne Lenore Weingart." "Where'd that come from?" I was asked. "Well, it's the name of a girl I was in grammar school with. I haven't seen her since. I think there were only 11 or 12 of us, and when we graduated from the 6th grade, we went to different junior high schools." But the name stuck with me, I guess, because here it was coming out of me after all this time. The show aired a week later, and on Monday morning, the phone rang in my office, and Ray Whitney, my assistant, took the call. It was a woman calling from Nevada. Ray said, "May I help you?" Yes, I was watching the Burnett show Saturday night, and I heard my name mentioned." "Oh, well, then you must be Miss Weingart." "Well, yes, that was my maiden name, yes." "Did you attend Selma Avenue Grammar School in Hollywood?" "Yes." "Well, you and Carol were in the same class." There was a pause. The woman said, "I don't remember her."
I thought this would be a great place to end our tour in North Hollywood at the Television Academy. I believe Carol has 23 nominations and 6 wins, plus an honorable one. But the best part about our ending is that 89-year-old Carol is not only still with us, but about a month ago she appeared in a handful of episodes of Better Call Saul's final seasons, one of the greatest shows of, I'll say, the last 10 years. And without giving any spoilers, I'll just say her role was very crucial to Saul's ending. Her episodes were pure art. But anyway, this place is so fun because there are so many connections to Carol here.
When I in school and just look at all of these people, and that's my fantasy to someday get to meet them.
And even though you're so well known, and you
there's nothing
don't you
like
still
those people.
get a little bit of you try to be real cool.
Oh yes, I'm sitting there saying, "Hello, Carrie." Carrie, yeah, the first time I met him 3 years ago, I was, you know.
Johnny Carson, by far the greatest host The Tonight Show has ever had. And how wonderful is it that Bob Newhart is still with us. He and Carol, of course, did The Entertainers together, and he also appeared on her show. A legend himself at 93 years old. Oh, and of course, over here, the queen of interviews, Oprah herself.
I kind of went out and stuck my neck out. Got it chopped off a few times, but I took risks.
Is that why you are a legend today, you think, because you did that?
A legend.
Well, let's just, isn't she a legend? Let's just get this over with.
Ed Sullivan, one of the only shows Mama got to see Carol on not long after she got to New York. And of course, down here on the end, we have the one and only Mr. Tim Conway. Tim passed away a few years ago on May 14th, 2019, but his work on The Carol Burnett Show will live on and on, truly just a master at comedy. As is another legend we are so lucky to still have with us, Mr. Dick Van Dyke, still going strong at 96, literally going strong. There seems to be photos of him all over the internet going to and from the gym. Love it. Also, still going strong, another key player on our tour, Mr. Alan Alda. He's 86, and just the other day he tweeted a photo of him with MASH co-star Mike Farrell cheering the 50th anniversary of MASH. I just love Carol's overall adoration of showbiz people, and even after she became one, she didn't take on this "I'm too cool" demeanor. She's just always gotten a kick out of it, and I find that so inspiring. She must still love this business. She probably could have quit and retired a long time ago, but she never did. And she's apparently going to be in a TV show called Mrs. American Pie with Allison Janney, Kristen Wiig, and Laura Dern, to name a few. I mean, no signs of slowing down. Oh, Lucy and Desi, the best. Just the best. You know, I love that Lucy saw this young redhead coming up in the business, and instead of jealousy or envy, she took her under her wing. Oh, you're going to love this one. Betty White. Although, I think Carol's chin doctor sculpted this because I don't recall Betty's chin being so pronounced. Ooh, maybe not the best one here. Oh, over here, we have two people I just love. Norman Lear, the greatest producer in television history. He just turned 100 this summer. Now, see, I think Bea Arthur's looks like hers. Oh, God, I miss her. Vicki Lawrence, she doesn't have a sculpture here. I think she deserves one. She still tours the country as Mama in her one-woman show and is as fabulous as ever. And over here, Mary Tyler Moore. She's just someone else I refuse to believe is gone. I don't know how that's possible. Carl Reiner, of course, starred in a special with Carol. On this side, over here is a wall of producers that shamefully doesn't include Joe Hamilton. It absolutely should. He gave us over 3 decades of wonderful television. And back in the corner here is Jack Benny, who occupied stage 33 before Carol took it over. Oh, over here, this delights me. I just love that the Academy recognizes the brilliance of Bob Mackie. 82, and he still looks 25. He's next to Dinah Shore, who Carol had many, many interactions with over the years. And then we have the greatest second banana of all time, Mr. Harvey Corman, who sadly passed away on February 15th, 2008, at the age of 81. Oh, I didn't mention Lyle Wagner either. He passed away at 84 in March of 2020. And after the show, he started his own movie trailer company called Star Wagons. If you've ever been on a TV or a film set, you've been in his trailers. And, okay, last but not least, our very own Carol Burnett, with actually the greatest statue here. Oh, I cannot tell you how much fun I've had making this and sharing it with all of you. Congrats for making it to the end with me. Okay, I could actually start to get emotional, so before that happens, let me just sign off by saying thank you, thank you, thank you for joining me and for watching the life story of someone who I can say is my favorite person in the world of show business. And I'd love to hear what you think of her, so drop a comment if you feel like it. Again, thank you so much for watching.
Glad we had this time together, just to have a laugh or sing a song. Seems we just get started, and before you know it, comes the time we have to say so long. There's a time you put aside dreaming, and a time for things you have to do. But the time I like the best is any evening here with you. When the time comes and I'm feeling lonely, and I'm feeling oh so blue, I'll just sit back and think of you only, and the happiness still comes through. That's why I'm glad we had this time together, 'cause it makes me feel that I belong. Seems we just get started, and before you know it, comes a time we have to say so long. Good night. Thank you.